Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to The Non-Prophets. This show is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin. I'm your host, Jeff D. My co-host is Mary Mcmanamee.
Hi, all.
And our guests this week are Keryn Glasser.
Hey, guys.
And Phil Amador.
Hello.
Our producer, Russell Glasser.
Hello.
Today's opening music was Worms Make Dirt by the ACA'S. Not a terribly rational creation myth, but certainly no worse than what we get from Christian fundamentalists. Speaking of which, did you guys know that Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, is the world's 6,006th birthday, according to Bishop Ussher?
No. Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How about that?
Just a few days. It's supposed to be the anniversary of the creation of the world, according to this nitwit that went through the Bible, adding up the dates to figure out that, according to him, the world was created in 4004 BC. That would make this 4004, 2002, 6006. Pretty cool, huh?
Sweet.
That's a lot of candles. On that cake.
I'm surprised there wasn't some kind of insane flap 6 years ago, because that would have been exactly a 6,000-year anniversary, and you're
the magical number.
your guys predicting the end of the world.
That came and went?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Rapture report again. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We haven't done one of those in a long time. The Rapture claims have just really petered out. But, every once in a while there's another one. I'll do them when they come up. Also, on the calendar, this is the tail end of Free Thought Week.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
Yay.
I have some information here about this. Free Thought Week commemorates the termination of the Salem witch trials, which happened on October 12, 1692. And I have some information here. Free Thought Week they asked then in 92, they asked then Governor Bush to proclaim that officially Free Thought Week in San Antonio, and he didn't. But he did send them a letter saying, congratulations.
Yeah, but he wouldn't go out and say he would make it a state of proclamation.
No.
That's not too surprising.
No, not surprising at all. We are live, October 19, 2002. The ACA is a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings Sunday mornings at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop at 307 West 5th Street here in Austin, Texas at 10:30 a.m., except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at 11 a.m. in the Longhorn Room of Fur's Cafeteria at North Cross Mall. Do we have somebody lined up for November 3?
Not that I know
at all?
No, because of the Godless March. Probably.
Oh, because of the Godless March in Washington and the simultaneous celebration in Comfort, Texas.
Right. About
the monument that is being set up there now on private property, because the last one on public property was hauled away.
Yeah.
That's going to be going on then. Well, okay, that's fine. I'm thinking of trying to contact Reverend Ivan Stang from the Church of the Subgenius, which is now located here in Austin, Texas.
Oh, really? Now, what are they about?
It's this, parody religion.
Oh, okay.
About Bob, and Bob got the message from the space aliens that there's a conspiracy of normal people to keep the weird people down, and so it's a church about being weird. I can't explain it, but I can't explain it, and I don't think it's a thing that bears too much explaining.
Yeah.
So they say Bob Damn instead of Goddamn.
They go much further than that.
But you get the same results.
Yeah.
It's basically, I've been reading the Book of the Subgenius, which is their big soft covered thing that came out a few years back. That's just a collection of insane rants about the teachings of their made up religion, and the cool thing about it is it sort of addresses the main problem, I think, with religion, which is that people actually take it seriously, right? I mean, if religion was just about having fun and not taking the beliefs part of it too seriously, that would be fine. That's how you deal with Judaism, right, Keryn?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the Church of the Subgenius is intentionally engineered to be something you can't possibly take seriously. It's just too nuts.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
They did that on purpose.
So it's sort of like The Onion does with news and politics.
Yeah. And they had a prediction that the world was going to end in 1998, and so they have concluded that it's not 1998 yet. Coffee Rogue still here. They have a show on the Atheist Network, which I have been listening to all the back episodes that they have on their website.
Oh, cool.
And trying to get caught up. It's just really hilarious stuff. There's some great music that comes out of the Church of the Subgenius. A lot of amusing, what do they call them? I forget what the term is, but they'll take like a news broadcast and change the words around and make it mean something completely different and hilarious. They do a lot of that kind of stuff on their show.
What was it called again, Jim?
That is called the radio show?
Yeah, the radio show.
It is the Hour of Slack.
Okay.
Slack is what you're trying to achieve
Right.
Yeah.
in the Church of the Subgenius.
That sounds
Gotcha.
Slack. Not false slack, but the true slack that comes only from Bob. How did I get off on that thing? But anyway, yeah, the Church of the Subgenius offices moved to Austin, so I'm guessing that the main guy must be around somewhere. And he is also, or at least used to be, I haven't seen him recently, but then I haven't been there recently myself, a frequent contributor on the Alt-Atheism news group.
Oh, yeah.
So this guy's an atheist.
Oh, of course.
And says great things about atheism on his show.
Wow.
ACA board meetings take place at 10, right before our regular meeting on the second Sunday of every month. Except this month, the board of directors meeting was postponed a week, so it's actually going to be tomorrow. All board members out there take note and try to show up like I usually don't. If you shop at the Randall's food store chain, you can give them our nonprofit organization number, 5158, and 1% of your purchase will be donated to the Atheist Community of Austin. The Godless Gamers meet Monday nights at 7 p.m. here at Glasser Studios. ACA Happy Hour is at Antonio's near Highway 35 and 183, Thursday nights at 7:30, and again here in Austin. For more information, call our voicemail at area code 512-371-2911 or visit our website at www.atheist-community.org. And reminder for people listening to the show that if you listen to us live from 2 to 3:30 Central Time on Saturdays, there is a chat room that runs on the Atheist Network site along with the show where you can sign in and meet other atheists and talk about what we're talking about, and we monitor that and sometimes respond to what people say there. The URL for that is www.atheistnetwork.com.
Oh, and this just jumped in my head in relation to the Randall's card.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if folks have been trying to do that yet, use our nonprofit organization number of 5158 when you go to Randall's and buy stuff. But just know that you have to sign up for that. Like, it's not automatically part of your card. Because I tried to do that yesterday when I made a purchase.
Yeah.
And they said, what is that? What does that
you have to go back to their customer service desk.
I had to go to the customer service, right.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that. I thought maybe it was just automatically, like, on your card or something.
Oh,
or you could tell them at the register, like, please ask.
Did you go to the customer service?
I did.
Signed up finally.
I did. Yay! And I memorized the number because we've said it every show.
Yep.
Can that be done at HEB as well? Or?
No, just Randall's.
So it's just
like
Randall. Okay.
Yeah, it's just their thing.
If you encounter any instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. media, report them to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. Send them as many details as possible and the name of the news source. They will report that to participating national and local non-theist organizations who will distribute press releases regarding the reported subject matter. I'm seeing a lot of, not necessarily this, because I don't know how involved they are in these things, but most times now, I watch the Infidels Newswire on the internet, and pretty much every time there is a report of some nitwit doing an editorial criticizing atheists or saying no atheists in foxholes or calling this a Christian nation or blah 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 blah, that newspaper or website will then be inundated by email responses from atheists. There's a lot of that happening now. I don't think you can get away with saying that kind of stuff anymore without getting a response.
Have you seen the latest one? Some nitwit from writing for just some insignificant college paper in Auburn, Alabama, said, "Oh, the big scary atheists are having a march on Washington. Ooh, somebody needs to stand up to them. They're all just a bunch of whiners." And last I saw it was already all over alt.atheism, and they were preparing their swarm.
Right.
Yeah. We've achieved at least that much, massive response to that kind of silliness. Tomorrow, here in Austin, there's the annual AIDS Walk to raise awareness of the fight against AIDS, and the ACA has participated in that every year for many years now. What, 5 years we've done this?
I think so.
4 or 5? It's been a while.
At least 3.
And if you want to participate in that, talk to Michelle tomorrow at the Bagel Shop.
Jeff, comment from the chat room. Any plans to get that guy from the Church of the Subgenius to come on, maybe?
On what, on the audio show?
On here, yeah.
I don't know. I'm just going to email him and see if we can get him as a speaker at our lecture series.
Cool.
That would be fun.
But I don't know. I mean, if he wants to be on our show, he's already got his own show.
Oh, that's right.
I'll do a deal. If I can be on his show, he can be on mine.
Yeah.
Where are we? Godless Americans is going to march on Washington, D.C. We mentioned that already. That's coming up on November 2. I'm going. Vic Farrow, former co-host of this here show, is going. Jeff Jones. Jeff Jones, yeah. Jones is going. And that's it, I guess, for our contingent. But I've heard from a lot of listeners to our show who say that they are going, and it sounds like there's going to be a really big turnout.
Good.
American Atheists is projecting 1,000 people, give or take 1,000. So we'll have to see. And hopefully they'll have caught the sniper by then.
You're right.
But I'm going anyway, regardless.
Yeah. And he's not going to be there. That would be crazy.
No.
He's already crazy.
I don't think there's a Home Depot anywhere near that area there.
Yeah.
Why is it Home Depot and not Target?
Home Depot. No, why not Walmart?
Jeff made a funny.
Yeah. Well, I say one really tasteless thing every episode. Where we go. So anyway, that's going to be on November 2, and pretty much if you haven't made your plans by now, you're not going. But at least try to support that any way you can. You can go to the endorsement page at www.godlessamericans.org. Keryn.
Yes.
Is there some ACA extracurricular activities going on?
There are some definite extracurricular activities going on for all of us social atheists. We are going to take an atheist group to crash the Renaissance Festival next weekend.
In Plantersville, Texas.
What do you mean crash it? You're going to pay your money and go in like everybody else.
We're going to take a group of atheists, a band of atheists, to make a pilgrimage to the medieval times and, talk with their Pope and stuff.
Is there any chance we could change history?
Make them sign a Magna Carta and stuff?
Maybe.
There you go.
And we are, going to be going in costume and having lots of fun. That's going to be next week, next Saturday, October 26th. And if you want to hear more details about it, then show up at the Bagel Shop tomorrow morning, and we'll talk about it.
Give me your email address.
Or email me at Keryn, spelled KERYNNEQ, at AOL.com. Additionally, if anybody is interested in artsy stuff, I've got tons of it that I know about going on around town, and if you'd like to take a social gathering of atheists to go out for a day and do some artsy stuff, there is a Sculpt Fest coming up at the Umlauf Sculpture Park on November 3rd, the day after the march.
Is that people getting together to sculpt in unison?
Yeah, sure. Yes, really? Actually, it's going to be a big group of sculptors, going to the park, doing their thing. You can watch them, you can talk to them, you can, mill around.
Okay. They're not going to be providing sculpting medium for everybody that shows up or anything.
I don't know.
Okay. Just curious.
And just a bit of trivia. When Farrah Fawcett was a student at the University of Texas, Charles Umlauf sculpted her as a model, I think, for Diana.
Naked?
Well, topless. And I think that sculpture is at the Umlauf Sculpture Garden. And you can sort of recognize her.
Yeah, I think I may have seen it.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know for sure if it's Diana, but...
My dad went to high school with Farrah Fawcett.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. In the same class? Or...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Naked?
Naked?
Oh. At some point she was... Well.
And Halloween is coming up.
Put a fig leaf over her.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then Ryan O'Neal beat the sculpture up. Oh, boy. Never.
All right.
Well, additionally, I was going to say that Halloween is coming up, and there don't seem to be any concrete Halloween plans yet, but I've got a few ideas up my sleeves.
Well, I did have a big plan for next week's audio show, except that we are apparently not going to have one.
Oh no!
Sorry.
Because too many people are going to the Renaissance Festival thing. So I guess I'll have to go there to get my Halloween.
Maybe we can bring bring the radio show with us.
Do a remote.
Do a recording there?
Yeah. I mean, we'd have to broadcast
if we did a recording
it the
that week, could we maybe broadcast that the next week?
Yeah, because we're not doing a show that week either, right?
Unless you're going to go down to Comfort, Russell.
Yes, we could do a recording.
All right, we can talk. We can talk about that. Otherwise, if none of these plans work out, then it's going to be reruns for the next 2 weeks, folks. You've been warned. Okay, Non-Prophets Atheist Experience CDs. Also, if you're not getting enough of our show, you can collect past episodes of the Non-Prophets and an audio version of our sister show, The Atheist Experience, which airs only on public access television here in Austin, Texas,
Channel 10,
in convenient CD format. Each CD contains a full month's worth of audio from both shows in QuickTime and MP3, plus extra surprises. The CDs are $5 each. That's a mere $5. Is Ashley charging anything for shipping on those?
I don't think so.
I think he ships them himself.
Yeah.
Contact atheist@mac.com for more info. Okay, now,
you can also get subscriptions of them for 6 months, I think.
Oh, yeah, you get a subscription deal.
But anyway, check with Ashley on that.
All right, you can save some money there by just committing to get a bunch of them. So, Russell, we have some discussion here about politics, don't we?
Yeah, actually, we've been having some discussion about politics.
We talked. Was it last week? It was like the week before that. We talked about, what are the limits of what we can talk about politically here on the show. We are hosted. We are. What do we say? We are brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a non-profit organization and technically not allowed to take a partisan position. And having thought this over, and having gotten some emails on the subject from various listeners, we wanted to kind of make some kind of official announcement here about how we're going to handle this. Why don't you start with that letter that you got that was a direct response to us asking listeners, how much politics do you want us to talk about?
Okay.
What did he say?
This is a letter from Travis, and I emailed Travis and asked if I could read it on the show and didn't get a response in time, so sorry if the answer was no.
What I always do is I never read last names or email addresses, right? And I just read the relevant points.
He said, I was listening to your show from 2 weeks ago, and you were discussing the idea of supporting political candidates and asked for listener response, so here you go. Honestly, I'm not sure that a majority of your listeners probably wouldn't mind at all, or I'm sure that a majority probably wouldn't mind at all if you promoted certain candidates. I'm sure most people figure that all atheists have politically similar views, therefore they assume that you would support the same people that they would want in office anyway. However, I can say that I don't share the same political views as most atheists I have met, and tend to find myself siding politically more often with conservatives than anyone else. I wonder who you could even find to support from an atheist perspective. I'm reminded of the members of Congress pandering on the steps of the Capitol, enunciating under God.
I'll tell you who, Jesse Ventura.
Yeah. Well, as I remember, you actually announced that you were renouncing your membership in the Democrat Party.
I have officially done that.
Yes.
I can't. I mean, the Democrats as a party just aren't focused on the issues that are important to me.
Right. So that should be a partial answer to Travis.
Well, there's that. I mean, the thing is...
Although I know you and I are both fairly liberal, and
I am a liberal, unabashedly. And but the thing is, there are different kinds of liberalism and conservatism.
True.
Right? I am not as liberal on some issues as I am on others. Right? Which is, I guess, the same as saying that I am more conservative on some issues than I am on others.
So what do you call yourself?
So I think, I think that we're getting into the territory of, a simple label as if it applied equally to everything is dumb. And when we get these emails from conservative atheists, well, what that's telling us is they're almost certainly, they are certainly not religious conservatives.
Right.
They are almost certainly not social conservatives, but they could be more conservative on some social issues than me. But what really matters is, as far as our show is concerned, what are the particular issues, right?
Yeah.
And are there, when there are things going on in our country where religion is intruding into government, either because religious people who are in government are using it as a platform to talk about their religion and promote their religion, or whether just pervasive attitudes in our culture that really aren't rational but come directly from religion are being taken for granted by people. That's all fair grounds for us to talk about that.
Absolutely.
And so I think the right answer is to, and again, I used to call myself a Democrat. I don't anymore. I really don't call myself any political party right now because I don't know of one that's worth supporting.
But I still call myself a Democrat and find that Democrats tend generally to be more in line with my point of view than not.
But
the lesser of the evils?
In a way. I mean, far be it from me or you to tell our listeners that, this is what we think and you should think that way too.
Right. No, you're listening. If you're listening to our show, you're going to hear our opinion.
Exactly.
Right? And hopefully we can do a good job defending and supporting our opinion, but that's what it is, right? I mean, there's no, it's not written in stone anywhere that you got to do what we say. So we're going to go ahead and talk about issues when we think it's valid for discussion on our show, and we will mention the names of candidates that we think are doing well or badly as far as issues go from our perspective. We will even mention political parties that we think are doing well or badly in particular areas as far as issues go. But
we reserve the right to chew out Joe Lieberman just as much as Pat Robertson.
Right, sure. Clearly, I mean, from my perspective, the Republican Party is much more dangerous from a state church separation standpoint than the Democrats. But it's not like the Democrats are somehow immune to making those kinds of mistakes.
Of course.
And the reason I'm leaving the Democrats is because every time I get their little handouts and mailings and things, they list, the environment this and education that. And those are important issues. They certainly are, and I think that I'm glad that there's somebody out there fighting for them. But it's not the main thing I care about, and I can't keep calling myself a Democrat when they're going to brush the whole church-state separation thing under the carpet and not make it a point of contention. So,
okay, so
have we made this clear at all? We're going to talk about issues, and talking about issues, names of candidates and names of parties are going to come up. That's it.
That's our opinion.
How it goes.
Right. And also in relation to that, and we may have this letter too, but we also received the other letter about the Gulf War. So.
Just to finish this letter up.
Okay.
He says, I fear atheist groups such as the ACA and yourselves at the NonProphets supporting liberals simply because they aren't conservatives and potentially finding myself hating your show because we end up with a bunch of undeserving people in elected office.
But dude,
who don't care more for our cause than anyone else.
Some generalization happens just because it's practical, right? The fact is, liberals are not, the major liberal political party is not the political party that is widely known for trampling the rights of non-theists, right? It's the Republican Party, the conservative Republican Party, that has formed an unholy alliance with the religious right. And you guys are sucking up to them, and you are allowing them to define at least part of your agenda. And as long as you keep doing that, I'm going to keep despising all of you. If you want to be a conservative atheist, that's fine. But if you want to be a conservative atheist and then criticize us for preferring a liberal approach, because the liberal party is mostly not dominated by religious fundamentalists, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to live with it.
So Quill of Numenor in the chat room says, but what will I do if the non-prophets don't tell me what to think?
You come to us for your marching orders.
Go to the Church of the Subgenius. You can pay them to tell you what you think. Now we got another letter here, and this is a little bit more forceful than the last one you read, but it's on the same subject. This guy particularly, his name is Paul, but particularly was concerned about our comments on our president's efforts to get us into a war with Iraq. And he says, I feel that the weekly updates on the United States military actions against Iraq stray from the field of the show. If the theme of the show is to be religion, then politics, which are primarily involved with non-religious factors, should not be a regular feature. It says, atheists are not linked in their politics. Many atheists, myself included, support the sitting president in military action against Iraq. To speak as though the actions are objectively appalling insults the listeners who are willing to consider them. And here's my response. And to speak as if we weren't willing to consider the president's actions before stating our opinion about them insults us. So let's keep these accusations of prejudice out of it. The only place where we've stated anything like a theme to this show is on the Atheist Network website, where it says, we do a lively program discussing theistic shenanigans, New Age nonsense, and philosophical topics from an atheist perspective. That our current president strongly supports the interests of the religious right is an established fact. That the religious right believes it is necessary to provoke a final battle in the Middle East in order to trigger the return of Jesus is also an established fact. Right. I consider those facts sufficient to discuss Bush's Middle East warmongering under the heading of theistic shenanigans. Of course, if someone can prove that there's a rational reason for an attack by showing me exactly what evidence there is that an attack from Iraq is imminent, then I'll happily change my tune. This is what I asked for on the show last time we talked about this. This guy did not give me that information, and I should mention he has not responded to this response of mine when I emailed him. He has not given me the evidence that there is that shows, boy, if we don't do something immediately against Iraq, that something bad is going to happen. Furthermore, the question, are preemptive strikes ethical, falls squarely under the heading of philosophy. The president's actions have raised this topic, and so we are discussing it from an atheist perspective as promised. Note that I say an atheist perspective, not the atheist perspective. I'm aware that we do not speak for all atheists. If you would care to write something disproving the theistic basis of and providing an ethical justification for a war on Iraq, I will read and respond to your comments on the air. Now, he hasn't responded yet. Maybe he'll listen to this show and provide us something, and then we will read that. While we appreciate your listenership, we cannot conduct our show by avoiding topics that some listeners might dislike. Thanks for writing, and thanks again for listening. I mean, I would love to believe that I am not living in the country that's the bad guys. I would love to believe that. I do not believe that right now because the evidence that I see tells me I'm living in the bad guy country. Mm-hmm. That's what's going on. I would love to not believe that. So if somebody can prove that that's not true, I will happily embrace that information.
Really a lot.
Yeah.
That's how I define a real patriot, Jeff, and that was a good response, by the way.
We were talking about patriotism.
But I'm saying,
before the show, yeah.
Your tendency to question the government, and that for me at least, that is what defines a patriot, and that's I do that myself a lot.
Questioning the government is a patriot?
Yes. That is what the entire...
That's what our Constitution is about.
There's this false patriotism attitude going around, which is that being a patriot means being a good little doggy. Yeah. Right? It means shutting up and doing what you're told. And I'm sorry, that's not patriotism.
And if you don't agree, don't forget that part, then you have to leave the country.
Patriotism is working to make sure your country doesn't suck. That's patriotism.
Here.
Right? And if that means defending your country against invaders from outside that want to fuck it up for you, right, then that's patriotism. Right? Yeah. Fighting for your country can be patriotism, but it's not the only kind. It matters whether whether there's some attacker coming in that's going to make your country suck, or whether you're making your country suck by turning it into the guys that are going to go out and beat up other people without any good reason.
That's so true, and it's turning into an ideological dictatorship, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about this guy that didn't agree with our most of our ideology here, and I mean, it's not religion we're arguing about. We're just arguing about political views.
No, it is religion we're arguing about. It's
as far as
it's not so much political views. You know what politics is? Right. Politics is, we want to achieve X, or we want to preserve X, and we have to negotiate with these guys. We have to cut deals, and we have to, there's give and take. That's what politics is. As soon as it's, we have to be on this side of this issue because that will spark the conflagration that will bring back Jesus, that's not politics anymore. That's religion. So, okay. That's enough of that. I have another piece of correspondence here that is on a separate issue, and so I'm going to set that aside for now. Who would like to do some actual news? Mary?
Sure. I will
we'll go counterclockwise
I will
today.
do some. This is out of Montgomery, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
The Ten Commandments monument there was installed, believe it or not, by the Chief Justice of Alabama's Supreme Court.
If his name is Roy Moore, I believe it.
It is indeed.
That's the guy. We know all about him.
Did you say Roy Moore?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, don't stop reading though.
Okay. Yeah, get this. This monument in Montgomery, Alabama. Thank you, Russell.
Go ahead.
This monument, I need to, get a Darth Vader voice.
I'll do that. You just read.
Okay. Chief Justice of Alabama's Supreme Court says he installed a 5,300-pound monument to the Ten Commandments in the state judicial building because he was concerned about the nation's moral decline. This was Chief Justice Roy Moore, who testified for a second day Thursday in the trial of a federal lawsuit seeking to remove the monument he had installed in the building's rotunda in the middle of the night.
That's no moon. That's a rotunda. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Testimony is expected to continue into next week. After Moore's testimony, the plaintiffs rested their case, the plaintiffs in this case being the Southern Poverty Law Center and Americans United for Separation of Church and State.
No, you. I am your government.
They contend the monument promotes Moore's religion in violation of the Constitution.
Hell yeah!
Go figure. Oh yes, get this. The monument features the King James Bible version of the Ten Commandments sitting on top of a granite block. Around the monument are quotes from historical figures and documents, such as the Declaration of Independence, which Moore said support his belief that the Ten Commandments are the moral foundation of law.
These news stories never give you enough info, though, right? I don't care that it's from the King James Version. I care which version of the Ten Commandments from the King James Version of the Bible is it? Which of the 3 or 4 different versions of the Ten Commandments is it?
Or is it the one with 11?
Or is it the 11... So, yeah, one says one does not have graven images on it because the Catholics are all about, icons and stuff.
Okay.
Which is the Charlton Heston version? No, seriously, which one is the official, the one everybody talks about?
I really don't know. Probably the Protestant one, because there's more Protestants than Catholics, but...
Good point.
That's like asking what's the official version of the way that God created the universe. Well, none of them are official. It's all stupid. Anybody else have church-state separation stories they want to talk about? I got one here.
I've got a Bible study in the White House.
Yeah, there we go. Huh?
I have one as well, the faith-based funding bill.
Go ahead, do that.
Okay, this is just a quick one concerning the President Bush's faith-based initiative deal he wanted to get passed. Now, what the Congress did was tone down the rhetoric as far as controversy with the Constitution. And instead of calling for direct government funding of faith-based entities, it encourages contributions to these organizations with a system of tax deductions. So, Company A is encouraged to contribute to this clinic, faith-based.
Yeah, you mentioned something about this before the show. I was wondering how on earth you can have have tax exemptions as an incentive for a tax-exempt organization, but now I understand it. It's if I give $1 million to Jerry Falwell, then I don't get taxed on my $1 million, or something like that.
Well, the act is called.
That's hideous and evil.
Yeah.
Well, one of the a new supporter of this chopped up faith-based bill is J.C. Watts from Oklahoma, and they're kind of surprised that he's supporting this faith-based light bill because it's sort of half of what he really wanted.
But that's the thing about these religious nitwits that are trying to change the laws of our land is that they will take an inch, they'll demand a mile, and they'll be thrilled that they can get an inch because every inch they get is an inch over the constitutional line. And it's the farther they can get over that line, the more they've won.
And I like the name of the version of this bill. It's good. It's titled CARE, and it stands for Charity Aid, Recovery and Empowerment Act.
Right. And they always give these happy, smiley face names to their bills that really ought to be called the Ripping Off the American Public and Giving the Money to Churches Act. Because that's exactly what they're doing. If they say dollars that I give to religious charities, I don't have to pay taxes on, what they are saying is, well, we're letting you decide where some of the tax money that normally we would have demanded from you can go. It's as if everybody will be taxed, but you get to take the total amount of tax that you pay and decide where it's all going to be directed. And that's fine until you realize they've put the authority to violate the Constitution into the hands of the taxpayers. That doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it okay just because the person paying the tax got to decide that their taxes are going to go to religion.
What if it went...
It's wrong one way or another.
Well, hypothetically, does that also mean that we as members of the Atheist Community of Austin could donate to our group? And
I was just going to ask that, because, I mean, if I owe $400 in taxes and I just, on a Sunday, come and put $400 in the tip cup, I mean, can I write that up and get a refund from the government?
It may be that you're covered by that, but they generally craft these things so that you can't, unless you're giving to the organizations they want you to give to, you won't be able to get an exemption.
You're actually getting a little confused on the tax laws. If you get to write off $400, it means you have $400 less of taxable income. It doesn't mean you get taxed $400.
But it doesn't matter. However much that is, right? However much that is money going to religions that didn't normally have to go. It doesn't help matters that if you pay $400, it doesn't help if it's less. It doesn't matter how much it is. If it's 1 penny, it's a violation of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. How much would I have to? Much would I have to give them to pay $400 less? There'd be thousands.
Probably
doesn't matter.
4 or 5 times as much.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they make it incredibly inefficient. That doesn't help. That does not help. So, okay.
Yeah, I think it might turn into something like the state has, where this whole month we're doing what's called SECC contributions. It's like state, I don't know, it's a group of state charities, and it's a whole bunch of them, including like Planned Parenthood and also Christian organizations. I mean, you name it, it runs the gamut. And yet, the Atheist Community of Austin is not one of those listed, because I guess technically we're not really a charity. But it just kind of makes me wonder, for groups that aren't charities but still
we take donations.
Work.
Of course we are.
That's charity.
Well, but we don't do charity work. So does that?
We can. I have one to do on Halloween if anybody's interested.
Well, that's good. Yeah,
the AIDS Walk. We do participate in charity work.
Well,
and we have given money to causes.
Yeah. Well, my point is that based on this law that could go into effect, it concerns me greatly that what this would mean is that groups like ours would not be included on these lists that go to state agencies and encourage people to donate money to them. Unless maybe we were to take a more active role and say, look, we want to be on the list of agencies that the state will contribute to.
Well, so why don't we do that?
That's something to bring up at the Board of Directors meeting tomorrow, and we can't decide anything here on the show.
No, I don't mean to, but I'm just saying, I'm just raising it as an issue.
Is that the end of that story there, Phil?
The thing about this article, and the reason it was brought up, is this bill was almost considered in trouble. This cut-up version of this bill until J.C. Watts threw in his support for it.
Well, right, of course, because these guys are not really about getting what they're actually demanding.
Right.
They are really about eroding the separation of church and state any way they can. If they can only get a little, they'll take a little this time, and then the next time it comes around, they will demand more. They will demand more and more and more and more because that's the kind of folks they are.
Actually, he said, here's a quote from him. He said, half a loaf is better than going hungry. It has been a long time since the House passed our version.
They are not going hungry. That is such a bald-faced, hideous lie. Churches are not going hungry. Or if they are, it's because people don't want to give them money. But there's not... They have not been treated unfairly.
No, they don't pay taxes anyway.
They don't pay any taxes. They get money for nothing. Absolutely for nothing.
Yep.
This is not a slippery slope because this has been a real...
Amanda, they will not be able to hear you on the mics over there. If you have something to say, please come over here. Well, go ahead.
Well, I'm saying it's a slippery slope fallacy to say that if you give an inch, then the next time it'll be a mile.
That's not. I'm not calling a slippery slope fallacy. I am not saying that an inch equals a mile, which is what that fallacy is. I am saying this is their strategy. They do it over and over again. It's happening.
That is happening. It is their deliberate strategy, and they've written about it.
Yeah. Keryn, got a separation church and state story?
Yeah, woohoo! Okay, so the White House staffers gather for Bible study. Voluntary meetings and Vice President's emphasis on faith. Apparently, in Washington, President Bush talks openly and proudly about his active spiritual faith. In another, less well-known sign of the religious devotion that permeates the administration, some White House staffers have been meeting weekly at hour-long prayer and Bible study sessions.
On the clock? During office hours?
It doesn't say.
Yeah, would it? Because if we found out, we'd probably find out that, yes, in fact, they're being paid by us taxpayers to have their Bible study sessions. They can study the Bible as much as they want, but they shouldn't be doing it.
No, it says during the lunch hour.
During the lunch hour?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It says Bush Aids organizations.
Right. Take that
Bush
back.
Aids organized the session before his inauguration. One group meets during the lunch hour on Tuesdays and another on Thursdays. Attendance is voluntary, and although lessons are Christian in nature, non-Christians are also welcome to come.
Yeah, they always say that.
Like they want to come. If you're not a Christian, why would you go?
It says typically 25 to 50 of the 1,700 people who work in the White House complex, department heads, secretaries, and mail clerks attend each session. They meet somewhere in the White House. It doesn't really matter.
Department heads, secretaries, and mail clerks?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a strange, the bookends of the people that actually work there, and a very small percentage of them, too.
Well, yeah, right. So typically, not everybody really does have to go, which is good, because if it was like everybody and there were one or two people that didn't want to go and they were feeling suckered. It says the Federal Workplace Guidelines issued in 1997 permits religious activities but warns supervisors to ensure that employees do not feel coerced to participate in them.
Okay.
I don't know how they would ensure that, but...
yeah, in the Bush White House?
Yeah.
Good grief.
Especially, Barry Lynn, Executive Director of the Americans United of Separation in Church and State, says courts have not ruled that religious study in public buildings is inherently unconstitutional. It says if there's equal treatment among people who don't attend and there's no pressure, then frankly it doesn't violate the First Amendment. And then he says, we have not gotten...
Do we have a thing that's broadcasting that sound up here?
We do.
Can we turn that off, please? Thank you.
It says we have not gotten a single complaint from anyone in the White House. I mean, of course they haven't gotten a single complaint from anyone in the White House. What are they going to do? Come up and say, listen...
Oh, right. That would be the test of whether there's pressure or not. If they got a complaint and that guy got to keep his job, why, that would show there wasn't any pressure.
Yeah, and it says some staffers say they felt uncomfortable about those sessions because their boss led them, and they felt pressured to attend. I mean, if your boss is leading a Bible study and you're like, nope, I don't want to go. In fact, I think you shouldn't be doing this, they're not going to say that.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
It goes down and it talks about President Bush, I think, hasn't been attending these Bible sessions.
He doesn't have to. He's God.
Yeah, right, of course. As the president
that line is just guaranteed to throw us all into paroxysms of laughter. Go ahead.
Wilkinson apparently said, as the president copes with the war on terrorism, the Lord is in front of him.
Get out of the way, Lord! I can't see where all the terrorists are hiding.
Bush starts off every day, reportedly, Bush starts off every day on his knees in prayer and reads the Bible each morning and studies a Bible lesson daily. Religion has been his...
Who cares? I don't care. Yes, we know he's a religious nitwit. What else?
Well, I thought this part was interesting. Religion has been a central part of his life since 1985, when a conversation with Reverend Billy Graham prompted him to renew his faith. He says that helped him to quit drinking when he turned 40. I think that is telling.
Yeah. I think maybe Billy Graham gave him a bunch of money to run for governor.
Yeah.
I don't have any proof for that, but it would have been about the same, well, not quite the same time frame, but certainly a precursor.
Wow.
Now, is that saying that President Bush was an alcoholic before he found God?
It's saying that he drank.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know those Yale frat boys.
Oh, yeah.
And Harvard. He went to Harvard, too.
He did.
Yeah.
On the subject of the way that Christianity insinuates itself into our government and then doesn't play fair with other points of view, Wiccan seeks to lead prayers for meetings. A Wiccan priestess wants the Board of Supervisors of Chesterfield County, Virginia, to add her name to the list of clergy members who say prayers before their board meetings. She has encountered nothing but polite resistance from the city government, which allows non-sectarian prayers at the start of board meetings. Quote, Chesterfield's non-sectarian invocations are traditionally made to a divinity that is consistent with the Judeo-Christian tradition, unquote, Chesterfield County Attorney Stephen Micus told Ms. Simpson in a letter denying her request to offer an invocation last month. Now, let's examine this sentence, shall we? Non-sectarian invocations traditionally are to the Judeo-Christian God.
Mm-hmm.
So they're non-sectarian, but you can only be of this group of sects over here. Otherwise, we won't let you. Astonishing.
Yes, you see, we're not telling you what religion you have to be. We're giving you a list of religions, and you can pick from those. Yes, that's freedom of religion. You have a choice.
Oh, good grief.
It reminds me of that monthly record club where you can only choose these CDs on this page there, and you have to get 10 for 99 cents.
Yeah.
Like, you're limited to these CDs. Only those.
Miss Simpson said she wants to make sure that all religious faiths in her county are represented at the county hearings if they are represented at all. Quote, personally, I don't think the board should be doing this, but if they are going to do it, they should reflect the religious diversity of the entire community. The government does not need to decide what is a legitimate religion and what is not. Good going for you, Miss Simpson. I'm sorry you're a Wiccan, because that's a silly religion too, but, hey, at least you understand what religious freedom is all about. Kent Willis, executive... What?
That was just funny.
Kent Willis, executive director of the Virginia chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union, said he is troubled by the Chesterfield board, which he said is violating Miss Simpson's constitutional rights. Quote, there are multiple violations here. Chesterfield County has now announced that its official religion is one of the Judeo-Christian faith. It is also violating the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and is a violation of her right of free speech. Mr. Willis said his group has not decided what action, if any, to take. Chesterfield County, south of Richmond, has had members of non-Judeo-Christian faiths offer invocations. For example, they had a Unitarian minister offer an invocation, and Unitarians are not Christians. Well, some of them are Christians, but they don't.
They're non-denominational.
They're not even. I mean, they're really non-sectarian.
Yeah.
It says you can come to our church. You can be sitting next to a pagan, a Buddhist, a Christian, or a Wiccan, said Ms. Enid Virago, the pastor of the First Unitarian Universalist Church in Richmond, who was allowed to offer an invocation. So, that's interesting.
About half of Unitarian clergy are atheists.
I absolutely insist, if you want to talk, man, that you have to either come up to the mic, or, because we're not playing telephone.
I believe that about half of the Unitarian clergy are atheists.
That's possible. I don't know.
That's what it says on their webpage.
Does it?
Yes.
Huh. Well, we had that Unitarian guy speak at our Separation of Church and State rally on the Capitol steps last year? Early this year?
It was repeated recently on the Access channel.
Oh. And that guy was kind of a loon. Mary, got some more news?
I do indeed.
Please do.
This is turning locally now. This is just a real brief story, but in an update to a story we did last week about the two brothers who are accused of beating a 14-year-old boy with a stick because he didn't memorize his Bible verses. This was Caleb and Joshua Thompson have been indicted by a grand jury, and although their court date has not been set yet, they, have been indicted. Before Wednesday, there really hadn't been a ruling yet. But yeah, this horrible story, just absolutely awful.
They're indicted on exactly what charges again? Do we know?
Causing bodily harm. That's the charge.
Okay.
And they beat this kid nearly to death.
Ow.
I mean, they ruptured, I think, his liver. Just absolutely horrendous. And, but, when we get things like the Shepherding a Child's Heart book that we've talked about numerous times on the show, which says, hey, it's okay to not spare the rod.
Not only not okay, it's demanded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If somebody acts up, you are required to hit them with a stick.
Yeah.
There was that story out of Canada recently about the ex-nun turned cult leader who was beating kids, and she in the witness chair she was saying, God says you're supposed to beat those little angels, beat them with sticks if they don't behave.
If you love them.
Satan must be in them if they're complaining.
Well, I've got
Something
a
to that
story
effect.
on that too.
Yeah.
But it's Phil's turn.
But wait, hers is related. Do you have a related?
Mine is going to go off into the holiday topic.
Okay, let's do.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, apparently in Atlanta, some pastors were convicted of abuse right there in church. A pastor and 4 members of his church were found guilty Thursday of aggravated assault and cruelty to children for whipping 2 boys in front of the congregation. The defendants were handed prison sentences ranging from 20 to 90 days. They were also fined amounts ranging from $250 to $8,000.
That's it?
Yep, that's it. In fact,
That's like nothing. They probably took in more than that in the collection plate that
I'm
night.
sure they did. It's a huge church, apparently.
They'll be getting the pies and cakes and fruit baskets from their clergy the entire time.
Yeah, and then next week, when they get their next paycheck, then they'll go hit kids again because they can afford it, probably.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not huge. They only have 150 members.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
the 150 members of the House of Prayer, an independent Atlanta church, have repeatedly said that they have the right to beat their children and that the church was being prosecuted for its beliefs. The state took 49...
No. They're being prosecuted for their actions. You can believe that it's okay to strike a kid. You're free to believe that. There will be no charges, right? Costs you nothing. You can believe that. If you actually haul off and smack them, now you violated the law.
That's right.
It's very simple.
That is a really good distinction. The state took 49 children of the House of Prayer members last year. All but 6 have been returned. The jury... let's see. The Duncans' 2 boys, ages 7 and 10, were removed from their homes after one of them reported the whippings to a teacher. The boys, who were badly bruised on their backs and torsos, told authorities that they were restrained by church members and beaten during services.
Boy, and I gave my parents a hard time about taking me to church just because it was dull.
It's like torture.
Imagine if, there was a decent chance every time I walked in the doors that somebody would start beating me with sticks. Good grief.
Alan, one of the pastors who was involved in this, was sentenced to 90 days in prison, 10 years of probation, and an $8,000 fine.
That's minimal.
It was unclear if he would. It says it was unclear if he would actually agree to stop organizing beatings in church. So he's actually organizing beatings in church. This is
public beatings.
Was it like a lottery or something? How do they pick their victims?
David Duncan was sentenced to 40 days in prison, 8 years of probation, and fined $500. And his wife got 20 days in prison, 5 years of probation, and $250 fine. That ought to teach her.
Yeah.
Are they going to be in more trouble if they get caught again during their probation period? Is that how that works?
Okay, and then it says they can keep their children. They haven't even taken their children away yet. It says they can keep their children if they complete a parenting class.
A parenting class.
Yeah,
They're going to go to a parenting class.
Yeah.
In this parenting class, they're going to be told, don't hit your kids, and they're going to be sitting there thinking, well, God said I should have beat my
I
kids.
don't even know if that.
Well, yeah, we don't know who's doing the parenting.
Oh, that's true.
It could be run by the same church.
That's like OJ taking a non-domestic, anti-domestic violence
Don't
class.
kill your spouse.
Yeah.
Naughty, naughty.
Oh yeah, these guys went on Oprah too, and they just come right out and say we believe in smacking kids around because that's what the Bible tells us to do. It's disgusting.
Do we have any more of this clergy abuse leading to prison
Let's segue to
sentences?
Halloween.
Halloween.
Why does it take bruises on a child's back to detect abuse? What about emotional abuse? These children are going back into their homes, back to their Sunday meetings, and back to watching somebody else being held up there and hit with a stick.
Yep.
What does it take to get these children to be safe?
Death.
That is a good answer,
Probably
Jeff.
the death of one of
It
them.
has to be probation. How about giving these kids tape recorders? Is
Right.
anybody giving these kids cell phones? Is anybody taking some kind of modern measures to protect these kids other
Those
than
are good ideas.
tell your social worker
Yes, I wish
if they
they
hit
could
you
hear
again?
Yeah.
Is she too quiet?
I'm sure that she won't be heard. Neither will I right now.
Oh, okay. Well, again, anybody else who wants to talk on the show, stand up, come over to the mics, and say your piece. Now, on the off chance that people can't actually hear you now, let me do this quick update first before we move on to the next segment of news. Last week we did the story on the investigation by the India Rationalist Association into these claims that Mother Teresa posthumously cured this woman's ovarian cancer. Okay, and their investigation discovered that the woman who was supposedly miraculously cured was undergoing modern medical therapy at the time and responded as expected. That though she does not speak English, her statement claiming the miracle was written in perfect English. That despite the fact that she was not a Catholic at the time, the statement included detailed information on Catholic beliefs, that the two nuns that were tending her at the time, and who did speak perfect English, are now refusing to say anything about it, with this lame-ass excuse from some archbishop who said, well, they just don't want to give their versions of it because when there's little discrepancies between different versions and people don't believe it. And the woman has disappeared. Well, apparently she's not disappeared anymore, and nor has her husband, who has now gone on record with a statement. It is much ado about nothing, he says. My wife was cured by the doctors and not by any miracle. I want to stop this jamboree, people coming with cameras every few hours or so. He concedes that the locket is part of the story of his wife Monica's ordeal. I don't think that's her original name. The husband is Sekou. But says no one should suppose that there was a cause and effect relationship between it and the cure. My wife did feel less pain one night when she used the locket, but her pain had been coming and going. Then she went to the doctors and they cured her. Monica still believes in the miracle, but admits that she did go to see the doctors at the state-run Balarghat Hospital. I took the medicines they gave me, she insists, but the locket gave me complete relief from my pain. Dr. Tarun Kumar Biswas and Dr. Ranjan Mustafi, who treated Monica over several months, say their patient indeed had a lump in her abdomen, but it was not a full-grown tumor. She responded to our treatment steadily, says Mustafi. Monica's medical records contain sonograms, prescriptions, and physician's notes that could conceivably help prove whether science or the icon worked the cure. But the records are missing. Monica says Sister Betta of the Missionaries of Charity took them away 2 years ago. A call to Sister Betta, who has been reassigned to another post of the charity, produced a no comment.
Reassigned, doesn't that sound familiar?
Oh, every time that, the Catholic Church plays, it's a shell game.
Yeah.
It's a shell game. Balarghat Hospital officials say the Catholic order has been pressuring them to say Monica's cure was miraculous. calls for the office of Sister Nirmala, Mother Teresa's successor as the head of her order, produced no comment as well.
Miracle of medical science.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Posthumously cured.
Yeah.
No.
No, she was a nice lady.
Yeah.
Well, depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so that's that update. More and more evidence that not only is it a hoax, but that the Catholic Church, or at least factions within the Catholic Church, are conspiring to whoop this up into a miracle.
Yep.
Astounding. All right, so where are we going now?
Any other bigger...
Halloween.
I have a short Halloween story.
Okay, let's do the Halloween story.
Sort of an update.
Because Halloween's coming up in, a week and a half or so, and we're not going to have a show next weekend, so...
Yeah, and then
not a live show. There'll be a rerun. Feel free to listen in, folks.
Okay, this is an update on the sort of Christian hell house, haunted house in Colorado.
Right. These are the haunted houses on Christian themes where they try to frighten little children into accepting the love of Jesus.
So the update is that this year it will not be held. So don't bother buying your costumes.
Yeah. Oh, darn it.
It wouldn't be because they decided that, that they were going to develop some scrap of human dignity. No?
No.
But you're reading part of this. Let me just read this article. It's really short. More than 45,000 people have paid to go to the Abundant Life Christian Center's Hell House, in which teens are depicted falling into hell by choosing abortion, drugs, or suicide, or by or by engaging in homosexual activity, and probably evolution would be another condemnation to hell. And it was started by Reverend Keenan Roberts, who this year is starting a new church, and that's why he's going to make a big move, and it's going to be held somewhere else in Denver. The Colorado AIDS Project and the Council of Churches called the Hell House intolerant and judgmental. But it caught on, and Roberts started selling the script package for $200 each.
Oh.
And he says it's used by more than 500 churches in 14 countries, and it will return next year when they get their new location set up.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Lovely.
So what do they do? Do you know?
They have, it's like in a regular haunted house, there'll be like, the corridor you walk through, and then there's holes in the walls and hands come out and grope at you and stuff, and that's scary. In this, it'd be like...
Woman in stirrups at a abortion clinic.
It's the devil! They're little dioramas depicting sins that are leading people to hell.
Dioramas, but they're not like people acting it out?
I think it's people acting it out.
Now, so they would have like a scene in hell where there's like two men making out, which means they probably have to hire two men to make out?
I do not know how they managed to rig the gay sex scene. I don't know.
That's actually, they have some homosexuals depicted in the Divine Comedy, if you read that. I forget what canto it is, but they talk about that.
I'm sure.
Maybe they have a woman dressing up as a man to play the role.
They probably pay these two people to do it, too.
Maybe they just show you videos.
Porn?
I don't know. I do not know. Well, they do, but then they say if you look in the view scope, then you're going to go to hell.
Don't listen to us, you're going to hell. Anyway,
yikes.
Good Halloween fun.
How about I want to hear this story that you got here, Kerry. You want to do that one, please?
Yeah, this is another follow-up. As you probably recall from last week, in an interview with 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago, Jerry Falwell called Muhammad a terrorist, and leaders in the two main branches of Islam welcomed an apology from him. Falwell, quote, deserves thanks for his return to the righteous path, unquote.
Apology?
Yeah.
What apology?
Well, here's what he said. This is what Falwell said. This was on Saturday. He said this. I sincerely apologize that certain statements of mine made during an interview for the September 30th edition of CBS's 60 Minutes were hurtful to the feelings of many Muslims. I intended no disrespect to any sincere, law-abiding Muslim. So what does he do? He just goes and stabs him in the chest.
Notice what the nature of that apology is. He's not, I'm sorry I said that. He's, I'm sorry that my saying that hurt some people's feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
He is not at all sorry that he said it, because he meant it.
And what is this bullshit about he meant no disrespect to honest law-abiding Muslims? He said Muhammad, right?
Right.
The guy that all Muslims are following. was a terrorist. Now, wouldn't that mean that sincere Muslims would then be terrorists? He's contradicting himself.
Yeah.
It would be the insincere ones that are willing to set aside Muhammad's terrorist teachings and be law-abiding. They would be the ones that he should be apologizing to. So he makes no sense one way or the other.
But they accepted it.
They accepted it.
Maybe
I don't understand that.
I don't think all Muslims have. Yeah.
They all got slapped in the face.
I think it's because this guy's English is not his first language, and he read that and thought that really was an apology. That's my guess.
Very intentionally why he phrased it in just such a way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, here's what the Ayatollah Hussein Musavi Tabrizi told the Associated Press. This is in the this is a high-ranking cleric in the Shiite Muslim area of Qom, an Iranian city.
Shiite.
He said, a person courageous enough to apologize for his errors is worthy of praise. This is what he said to the Associated Press. It's humanitarian and good Islamic behavior to accept an apology from a person who admits making a mistake.
But he doesn't ever say. He does not say. Jerry Falwell did this, and so he must accept it.
Yeah.
So that's good. I like that response.
The real tragedy of this story, of course, is that, as we reported last week, 5 people were killed during rioting in Bombay, India, in response to these remarks. And you don't see Falwell apologizing for that. The people are dead. Because
he was apologizing for their hurt feelings.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you did not like what I said.
Yeah.
Amanda?
So is this the caliber of Christian repentance? You can go to confession, I presume, and say, Dear Lord, I'm sorry you didn't like what I did. I'm sorry I made you unhappy.
No, they never cut that kind of slack when it comes to God, though. It's always because when you go... when you get right down to it, if you corner Jerry Falwell, what he would tell you is, well, I didn't do anything wrong unless it made God unhappy.
Yeah,
that's what they actually believe.
Yep.
That human feelings don't matter. That all that matters is whether God agrees or not.
Yep.
So.
Well, Falwell also said he made the remarks in response to, quote, one controversial and loaded question, unquote, at the end of the hour-long interview. I saw that interview, and there was no loaded question at all. I mean, I'm trying to remember specifically what the reporter asked him.
Does he say what the loaded question
No,
was?
he doesn't. He doesn't say that.
It doesn't matter. I mean, saying it's controversial means... check this out, right? You're on this interview, right? Guy says, so do you think that Muhammad was a terrorist?
No,
right?
And that's not what the guy...
Suppose, let's make it as loaded as possible, right? Jerry Falwell, was Muhammad a terrorist, yes or no? Well, now, that's only a controversial question if you want to say yes, but it'll get you in trouble if you do. It's not controversial if you want to say no, right? Mm-hmm. You just say no. You'd be done. You're out of the interview. You look great on TV, right? Well, as great as Falwell ever looks on TV, right? You'd come out of it smelling like a rose. It's only controversial because he believes that religions other than Christianity are inherently evil, and so anything bad you say about people that are the leaders of other religions must be true.
Well, unless it's loaded because, lying is a sin. So if they hadn't asked him that...
Hey, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. It is fair to know. You call yourself a man of God. You're supposed to be the ethical icon of the world. It's fair to know what you think about other people. It's fair to ask.
I guess for him, loaded was that he was going on record as saying.
I'm sorry. None of these reasons are justification for him getting out of responsibility for what he actually said.
Yep. And what it caused. The result of what he said.
Yeah.
Which was people dying.
Well, if somebody asked me, was Jesus really God's son? And I said, well, no, I don't think he was. And then some guys in Pakistan get into a fist fight over that or into a riot over that and kill each other, I'm not going to feel bad about giving my opinion. I'm not.
No, but he's not even taking responsibility for it.
I wouldn't take responsibility for other people killing one another because I said my opinion about their religion.
But he knew by saying that his remarks were going to be inflammatory.
inflammatory is one thing. causing people to kill each other is, I think, I don't think that we could assume that.
I think
more
you're giving
importantly,
Jerry Falwell too much credit for being able to think out consequences.
Right. It's just what that dumbass believes, basically.
Yeah.
I don't particularly hold him at fault for that. It is horrible, and I think the sickest thing about it is that he probably personally doesn't mind.
Yeah, no, I bet he doesn't.
Oh, sure.
I would mind, but I wouldn't consider it my fault.
He's probably, to some extent, relieved that it happened for one weird reason or another.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Maybe
I don't know.
I'm sure he doesn't care.
Okay.
Well,
we shouldn't be putting words into his mouth or thoughts into his mind.
Where's the article?
Lord knows he doesn't. Okay, so let's move on to the next story. I got something about the Ohio and the effort to put creationism in schools there. Now, this is weird. I have read several reports about the decision of the State School Board of Ohio. Some saying the creationists have been defeated. Some saying the creationists have won. Mm-hmm. Some saying that nothing has changed. So here is what this story says.
Out of Ohio.
Yeah, in Ohio. The school board said Tuesday that this is going to be our curriculum. It says, the standards put into writing what many school districts already do. Teach evolution, but also explain that there is a debate over the origin of life. That's not too bad on its face, though I could certainly see how some creationists would think that means they get to have creation talked about. And I can certainly see how it could lead some scientists to be worried that discussion of the debate will bring up creationism. Mm-hmm. But if nothing has changed, if this was what they were already doing, then it is neither a victory nor a defeat, right? The decision follows weeks of behind-the-scenes talks to reach an agreement with members who wanted alternative theories to evolution to be put on equal footing with Darwin's theory. Now, on that basis, it's a loss. It's a failure by the creationists, right? They did not get creationism put on the list of things that they are required to teach and grade on. So, I think it's basically a toss-up. We'll just have to see how it plays out. Any comments?
What others? I have a question. We have Ohio and then Kansas, right? What other states are on the borderline or are in jeopardy of...
Oh, gosh, there is another one in another state. I can't remember which one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Anybody remember?
Kansas City.
Georgia.
Georgia.
That's it, Georgia. Okay, so we have potentially 3 states who have school boards in them in some areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to maintain that they're trying so hard to just blend everything together. And I mean, if you're going to go to church, you're going to learn church stuff. And if you're going to go to a science class, you're going to learn science. And if they really think it's that big of an issue, to make sure that in your science class you mention that this is just a theory and that, Christianity, also has things to say, then... by the same token, if you're going to try and pass that as not separating church and state, or separating things out, keeping everything equal, making sure everybody knows what they're talking about, then you've got to also, just go into church and say, by the way, this is just a theory, and here's what evolution has to say in church. If you're going to blend one, you might as well blend
I am all in favor, well, not really, but let's, just for kicks, we'll say that I'm all in favor of religion in school as long as we can have science in church, right?
Absolutely. I think that's, I would almost be willing to...
A rebuttal, equal time for a scientist to get up there to the podium and say, okay, folks, now... that says that this miracle happened. Here's what we know about biology, and this is why that's probably not true.
Just as long as you're not talking about intelligent design science.
Oh, boy.
That's not science.
The problem with the Ohio maneuvering here is not that they're trying to get creation taught in schools. It's that the legal policy on what you may teach as science is, if it's controversial... you have to say it's controversial. And now, the context of the word controversial there does not mean if political or religious and non-religious factions disagree. The word controversial means controversial within the field of science. And this runs the risk of mischaracterizing evolution as something that biologists are heavily contentious about. Biologists are not. Biologists have a very strong general acceptance of this.
Right, but you're absolutely right, and you hear that rhetoric from creationists all the time. Oh, this is widely disputed even amongst scientists. No, it's not. There are quibbles over fine points which creationists take out of context and make into these giant disagreements.
Yeah, and you look at what they're doing now is they're actually sending people who are already creationists to school to get biology degrees so that they can say, yeah, now there are people with biology degrees who believe in creationism. That's like Jonathan Wells, for instance.
Well, quick reminder, when they say evolution is a theory, and it's in the scientific context, theory means an explanation of relationships, causal relationships, and if they're talking about it's just a proposed way something could happen, the correct word for that is it's a hypothesis. Evolution is not a hypothesis. Evolution is a theory, and an accepted one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unlike the thing where a watered-down version of the faith-based initiative. It's been voted on? The Senate?
The House has it. It's going to go to the Senate. It's possible.
Other than that, where clearly they have gained some ground, on this Ohio thing, I think nothing happened. Basically nothing happened.
Good.
What else do we have for news? Is there much?
Oh, I have one.
Oh, good.
If nobody else has one.
What I have left for myself is a couple of pages, 3 pages of an email exchange that I just engaged in this morning with yet another one of the fans of my art and game design who went to my website and took exception to what I say there.
Mm-hmm. Those are always interesting.
Yeah. So I'd like to do that, but let's get the news out of the way first.
I just had that one article about parenting, but you mentioned it was a bigger topic.
Why don't we do a whole thing on that?
Yeah, let's put that off.
Because I'd love to bring back. Do we still have that book, Shepherding a Child's Heart? You still have that?
We threw it away.
Threw it away.
The topic would be atheist parenting.
Yeah. Right. All right. We wouldn't have to have that around, but yeah, I think that's worth a whole show.
Well, I've got one that's near and dear to my heart. Now, we've had some really tragic issues today on the show. We've had, people beating children in church, and we've had people, withholding medicine from a woman who could be cured by a disease that's curable, But now they've gone too far. Now Iran cleric targets dogs in anti-corruption drive.
Dogs are terrorists. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In Tehran, Iran, or however you pronounce that.
Tehran,
Iran. Dogs and their owners could become the latest target of a clampdown on moral corruption in Iran after a hardline cleric called for canines of all shapes to be arrested.
What? I can see those.
What does arrested mean? When the dog catcher here in Austin, Texas goes around and picks up stray dogs, we don't call that arrested.
I can see some.
You're under arrest.
Halt patrol or something going around, picking up dogs, flashing their badge at them. You're under arrest.
I have one question: did they have to put their paw on the Bible or?
On the Quran? And how do they? I mean, are they accused of being dogs? Do they have to go up there and testify? I put it to you that you are a dog. Sorry,
he says, I call on the judiciary to arrest all long-legged, medium-legged, and short-legged dogs, along with their long-legged owners. Oh, so their owners are going to be arrested, too. People who own dogs are in jeopardy of being arrested.
They're on.
The newspaper quoted this guy whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce. Friday, prayer leader in the northwestern city of a place. I'll do it myself. The Etema newspaper on the Sunday quoted the cleric as saying.
Now, see, in the U.S., if say, Bush wanted to do that, he would go to the UN and say, if you're not going to round up all them dogs, then America's going to do it ourselves.
We're going to spend our tax dollars doing it, too.
And since we're the world's policemen, we'd have to round up everybody's dogs.
Now, we established last week we are the world's assassins.
Well, and of course the reasoning for this is that, while canines are reviled as by strict Muslims for being unclean, dog ownership has increased in Iran in recent years, especially among well-to-do westernized Iranians. Oh, dum dum dum. In our country, there is freedom of speech, but not freedom of corruption.
Stupid.
Said Hassani, famous for his often eccentric outbursts.
Okay. Oh, there you go. We have folks like that right here in the U.S.
We sure do.
Some evil people interpret freedom to promote un-Islamic and corrupt behavior, he said.
I wonder if anybody's actually paying any attention to this guy in his outbursts.
Whoever wrote this article did, yeah.
But are they really going to enforce this?
Oh, okay. Well, it says police and hardline judiciary agents have carried out sporadic clampdowns on dogs in Iran, fining owners and confiscating their pets in the streets and public parks. In his latest comments, Hassani appeared to be widening the net of his anti-canine campaign since last year when he thanked police for confiscating short-legged dog in Urumaya.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating.
Yay!
Once again, we see that the religion, the insanity of religion knows no limits. Now let's go to this correspondence I've got. How many minutes we got left, Mr. Producer Man?
5.
5. I think I can get it in. Let's do it. This is from a guy named Kurt. Sorry, Jeff. That's a good way to open a letter to me. Sorry, Jeff. I recently went to your website and read through some of your beliefs. I studied logic, symbolic logic, and theology at UCLA, and I have two objections to what you've said that I think actually hurt your cause. Just to get this out of the way, you didn't make any statement similar to this, but it relates to my point. The non-belief in the existence of God doesn't work by language structure, although that definition is commonly used by students who consider themselves atheists. They apparently don't understand logic or language, let alone syntax. Atheism is, by shortened definition, the belief in the non-existence of God. The person with the belief in question definitely has a belief, and it is that God does not exist. The old prove the atheist is wrong by redefining what he believes ploy. How quaint. But you're right, I didn't make the statement that you are disputing, so why are you wasting my time with it? Kurt. Now, what if we don't assume, like many religious nuts seem to, for the sake of argument, that there was a conclusive proof that could be accepted? What kind would be accepted by someone who is atheist by definition? By whose definition? The definition the atheist actually uses, or the one you're presuming to force upon him? Kurt, if a purely theistic view is that there is a theological non-material cause behind all things, then by definition an atheist's view is that there is no theological force at all, and only material proof can exist. I know several atheists who believe that there are non-material supernatural forces, they just don't believe in God. Kurt, the atheist view would be no evidence that would be accepted as proof in the first place. That follows from your straw man definition of atheism, but in the real world, it's rubbish. Kurt, this is the argumentative form of blah blah blah, I'm not listening. Whereas your argumentative form is to pin your definitions on the views of others and then attack them. How is that better? Kurt, this is the kind of assumed view of the world that precludes argumentation in the first place. We must assume nothing. In fact, we can only assume for the sake of argument. Then where do you get off assuming that I assume anything? I don't believe in God or anything else supernatural, but I don't stick my fingers in my ears and go blah, blah, blah either. If anybody can demonstrate the existence of the supernatural, I'll happily believe it. It is not my problem that so far nobody has done it. Personally, I don't blame people for not believing, but there is a kind of stubborn madness and maddening stubbornness in the atheist stance by definition. Oh, that was Kurt again, I didn't say. Gee, thanks for the insult. Let's see how you like it. There's a kind of pompous arrogance and arrogant pomposity in the stance of those who go around redefining other people's beliefs in order to criticize them. So if there was a God and it somehow revealed itself as God, what would the atheist's response be? Nope, still not God? By definition, yes. About as crazy as nope, it's still God's will from the standpoint against science and in favor of an all-theist view of the universe. Again, your criticism is nonsense. I could easily be convinced that there is an omnipotent, omniscient being. For example, that being could make me omniscient. And since it's omnipotent, it would be no trouble at all. If I was omniscient, I'd know for sure exactly what was true and what wasn't. You seem to be suggesting that I have some kind of psychological block against believing certain kinds of things. Why are you so keen to insult me, I wonder? Kurt, most people who describe themselves as atheists are, in fact, agnostics, whose point of view is not believing, but willing to believe. Oh, good grief. Atheism is a statement about belief. Agnosticism is a statement about knowledge. The two terms are not mutually exclusive. Let's see. So he says, chances are they would believe, agnostics would believe again if given enough personally experienced evidence. There is no such thing as personally experienced evidence. Things that individuals experience but others cannot verify might be accurate, or they might be mere personal opinion, misperception, or misinterpretation. If you can't share it with other people, then you can't determine its accuracy. Claims of indeterminate accuracy are not evidence. So, alright. I'm not able to get any further through this letter. We've run out of time, but it goes on like that, folks, and thanks for letting me share with you. Thanks for listening once again. Thanks to everybody in the studio for coming by. Like I said, we will have 2 weeks off here before, just running reruns before we do our next live show, and we will see you then. We'll leave you with the Aquabats, Worms Make Dirt. Bye, everybody.